relax, 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 relax as I share some stories with you, made up stories from my imagination, and I have used the characters from people that have blessed me on my lives and supported me on my lives on TikTok. I have used them as characters in my stories each night. So each night you will see a different story with different supporters in that story, and I hope you enjoy them, and let me know which story was your favourite in the comments. And if you do like this, why not subscribe if you haven't already, like and comment, and why not share. Thank you for watching. Enjoy. Bye bye. Once upon a time, in a country surrounded by snow, Ruby, I love potatoes, Miss Real, Jamie Pink, and Ashley. Okay. So I'm just going to, for the sake of the story, I'm just Ruby is Ruby. I love potatoes is spud. Spud is like Irish slang for potato. So I love potatoes is going to be spud. And Miss Real and Jamie Pink is going to be Jamie. And Ashley's just going to be Ashley. Okay. So hope. What a small word. Hope. H O P E hope. 1, 2, 3, 4 little letters. However, this word meant so much to the characters in tonight's story. And the little sleepy town. They called the valley. The valley was home to not that many people, and quite a lot of tourists flocked to it because it had the most incredible views. Oh my goodness, you could see for miles all around on top of the hillsides. It was beautiful, and on a summer's day, oh my word, it was just breathtaking. But the inhabitants recently suffered a very, very dramatic event. It was the last castle in their small valley, and visitors had flocked to see it for decades. The story goes, the legend has it, that the king and queen lived there, and their many servants, many, many years ago. And the king and queen were not pleasant people. They were unkind to all the inhabitants of the town. Hope was squashed. So this town, though it was beautiful, there was a sense of great oppression in the air. And hope was hard to come by. You see, for years, the residents told an old wives' tale. Legend had it that on the deathbed of the queen, she cursed the was despair in the air, and even the tourists flocking in their droves for the picturesque community could sense there was just a longing amongst the town and the inhabitants. It was May 1969, and on a Thursday summer morning, at dawn, well, to be precise, 9 minutes past the hour of 6, the building that the King and Queen lived in all those years ago crashed, came toppling down. Toppling down, toppling down, toppling down, toppling down, toppling down. What happened? Security cameras captured nobody near it. There was no suspicion of any fire or foul play in any sense. This building just seemed to collapse. I mean, it was reduced to rubble itself, the very foundations. Rubble. Wow. Was the attitude amongst the people. Like, it's about time, Ruby said. Ruby and Ashley and Jamie were siblings, and they lived quite close to the castle. They couldn't wait. They were excited. It's gone. Finally, finally, it's gone. Gone, but not forgotten. Mother and father would remind them. Gone, but not forgotten. Nor is the course, the townspeople would say. Ruby, all gusto and full of enthusiasm as an 8-year-old. She didn't believe in all this nonsense. She was like, well, I'm glad it's gone. Good riddance, good riddance. I don't believe that. I believe good things can happen. Well, Miss Feisty Pants Ruby might have been onto something. James, a little older than Ruby. He was only 10. And Ashley was 12. There wasn't much between them, and they were all very close. And for someone so young, Ruby seemed to be the ringleader, even though she was the youngest. Ashley had a gentle nature, and though she was a sensitive soul, she could be directed easily by others. James, he was as stubborn as a mule. Oh my word, you could not turn his head if he's decided something. No, sir, not James. Of course, being kids, they wanted to explore. So they just stood gazing at this building. And there was lots of whispers, you know. What happened? What? Why? How? There was many questions but little answers. But, and yes, it's a big but. It's not all bad. There came a wagging tail from the corner of Ruby's eye. It was Spud. Spud was the stray dog. Oh, Spud was beautiful. A little pug. Or was it a French bulldog? She couldn't quite tell. Only she knew she loved Spud with all her heart. And in actual fact, though Spud did not have an owner, she quite considered herself to be Spud's owner and best friend, in fact. Oh yes, Ruby often nominated herself for important tasks such as raising a stray dog. Spud had some attitude. There he was walking, feisty, tail swinging, albeit only about that much, little putty tail. And Spud had the most wonderful little face. And this little girl stood over next to the rubble. Her name was Miss Real. Miss Real, come here, come here. Look at Spud, look at how grown he's got. Miss Real says, look, is that Spud? Has your mummy and daddy allowed you to take him home yet? No, not yet. Not yet. Oh, okay, well maybe one day. So all the friends together with Spud lost interest in staring at a bunch of rubble. I mean, so over it. What is there to see? Nothing to see here, Ruby said. Let's go, I'm out of here. Off they went, following the leader, Miss Ruby, and her attitude. And Spud, the pug, stroke Frenchie, with a bunny tail up in the air. They were a right pair, a little gang. Miss Real lived only 3 doors away from Ashley, Jamie, and Ruby. And they were the best of friends. Why did they call her Miss Real? I don't know. Only that it was a nickname that just stuck. And so they never changed it because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's what Mummy always said. Ruby reminded herself. What will Mummy say about this dog business? And then it happened. Saturday afternoon, the crowd of tourists flocked in to their quiet town in the valley. They didn't care about the rubble on the ground, nor did they know about the wives' tales or the legends, nor were they expectant of this darkness that overshadowed the town. No, on the contrary, they were a happy bunch of people, and they brought such expectation and vibrancy. They coloured the dull town. For this reason, Ruby and Ashley and Miss Real and Jamie just loved seeing them coming. And Spud, of course. Spud loved the scraps they would leave behind. Yeah. You know what? Ashley remarked. What if it was no accident? is hope. There's no shadow hiding in the corner. The sun is shining, Ruby said, and it's shining in my heart too. H O P E Rose in the sleepy little town. As soon as that castle came down and crashed. So once upon a time, there was a wild and free girl wasn't very unlike Lucy. No, she might have found a kindred spirit in Ashley. I mean, she was fun to be with, she was quirky and she was popular, but there was something unusual about her. It was the look in her eye. Her eyes seemed to change so quickly. She just couldn't put her finger on what was different about Ashley. Until one day, they were sitting outside having a picnic lunch. And Ashley said, "I have something in my eye." And she started crying. Her eyes started to water. And Lucy gasped. She says, "Oh, what's that? What's that?" And instead of a tear, there was a diamond. "This came out of your eye. But how?" Lucy looked, held it up to the light in unbelief. She says, "Ashley, this came from your eye. You cry diamonds." Ah, I knew there was something unusual about you. Are they real? And then she bit it. She nearly chipped her tooth. "Oh, it's very real," Ashley said. "But you have to promise." "Shh. Put it away, Ashley urged. "Put it away. You have to promise never to tell anybody." "Shh, shh, 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 shh. The others will think I'm a freak." "You're gonna be minted," Lucy said, all excited. "You think I want to cry diamonds, Lucy, and be a freak? I don't know why it happens, but it does. But it only happens when the moon is high in the sky and a full moon is due." Wow! So, it happens once a month. You cry diamonds. Yes. Like when? How often? Like once, twice, like several times during the day. Ah! And do you collect them? Lucy just really was obsessed with this. Look, yes, no, I mean, I don't know, sometimes. Ashley was getting upset. So much so that the tears started to fall again. And Lucy just went to wipe her hands. To wipe her tears away. And she filled her hands with her was a lot of students. Some came from overseas countries and were boarders, and some came from local wealthy families. It was a highly prestigious event being actually received into the school, and a lot of the families keeping up with the Joneses tried to compete for whose child was the smartest, and some of the students were absolutely wonderful, while some of them were completely scandalous. Such students as Pure Rob and your ginger friend and Ruby, they were the lovely ones. They were amongst the majority, but there was a minority about school that, while they were bright, they were far from charming. So the three friends got together and said, how can we make our school a better place? How can we bring kindness to the forefront in our school? You see, there was much bullying in the corridors, snidey remarks and offset looks, and unless you had the top grades, you were really looked down on and frowned upon. And of course, with a very smart, sophisticated uniform, you know, they were all spectacularly dressed. But if one was a little bit dishevelled, shall we say, well, you simply did not fit in no more. No, you no longer, you weren't able to fit the mold anymore. So you were surplus to requirement, and you would be made to feel like a leper. Yes, it happened all too often. So they decided, these three beautiful friends with hearts of gold. Ruby was only in second year of high school, and Pure Rob, they called him that because he was so kind. He was only in first year. So we have Ruby in second year, Pure Rob in first year. Ruby called him Pure Rob. His name was just simply Rob, but she always referred to him as Pure Rob because he never said a bad word about anybody. And Ruby did desperately admire that about him. I think she kind of had a twinkle in her eye about Rob, if truth be told. She always smiled ear from ear whenever Chantel was pushed down the toilet on purpose, and she was completely soaked from waist down. She had to go home. The poor darling, she was so mortified, and it was done on purpose. Why would they do that? Because they thought it was funny, Ruby responded. How's that even funny? Graham said. I know, right? This is why we need to expose this. We'll get together tomorrow after school. So each of the friends went home and pondered the ponder. What would become of this idea? I mean, is it even plausible that 3 students amongst within a large school could make such a difference to impact their peers to behave better? What? But you know what? Graham thought long and hard about this. He had been planning this for a long time, and he believed he was ready to be a voice for those who could not speak for themselves, who were too shy, too belittled, too scared. Yes, I'm ready. Come on me, I'm ready to speak truth and to shine light into the darkness. Change needs to happen, and I am going to help make that happen. So the 3 friends met after school the following day, and they wrote their first piece for the article, the school article. And it was simply signed. Oh, it was an amazing article. Punchy, humorous, but straight to the point. Our school is not infested with vermin she was a doctor. Wow, she was one of the best doctors in her field. She left work, she left university, top of her class. Wow, she was amazing. She had the most amazing way with people. She was gentle and she was kind, and she just had time for people. Dee was a friend that she had met in school. He was a nice lad, very nice indeed, and the two of them remained close. But working in the same place left a kind of a strain. As YK battled in her work, and as competitive as it was, she rose above them all. But Dee kind of looked from a distance and just with admiration admired his friend, who was climbing to the top of the medical industry. But Dee's heart was pure. He was fun to be with. He had a mischievous side to him. But he loved people. You could not, could you? In this job that he's in, where he sees life and death hang in the balance. Sometimes it feels as if life itself is in their hands. Well, one particular day, an accident happened in town, and all of a sudden it was all hands on deck. YK ran, speeding into theatre. There was no hope for the person lying on the table. But when she came out, she had to speak to the relatives. It was a very sad and solemn time, and it was a part of the job that YK absolutely despised. But she had such a warmth about her, an endearing quality that made people feel at ease in her company and comforted by her voice. So she was always given the job. hasn't been just throwing this up because it just came to him. No. He's been planning this for a while. YK thought, all will be revealed, Dee said. When the timing is right, all will be revealed. Okay, YK said, and she returned to the work field. Down at reception, there was the loveliest newbie in there. On the desk, her name was Ashley. Ashley was bubbly. She had a smile from ear to ear, and she was just a welcoming face to a really, really dismal place. And so they stuck her on the front desk, and she was the smile that greeted these people that was unfortunate enough to have to be there. Ashley just lit up the room, any room she was in. It happened to be the foyer in the hospital in Alaska. But Ashley was good at her job. Yeah, it was her first week and she didn't know many people at the hospital, but she was excited at the prospects. She always wanted to be a doctor, you know. But Ashley, she was afraid of blood. She was afraid of the sight of blood. How could she cope? I'll faint, she would thought. What if I have to like sew people's wounds up? No. It's not for me. Ashley would cringe at the thought of it even. How could I be a doctor or a nurse? She pondered when even the sight of someone puking makes me want to vomit. No, it's not for me. But in a hospital, expect the unexpected. Things are not always as it seems. And in a fast-paced society, often you have to wear many hats. So Ashley had a little bit of medical experience, but she was just happy taking a back seat for now, having not completed her medical training. She could if she wanted to, but again, the whole blood thing was a little bit of an issue. Oh, her mother said, you know, Ashley, I think you could be one of the best doctors in this town if you would only get past this issue of blood. Do I look like a vampire? Ma, she would say. No, you don't look like a vampire. Well then, I have no need for blood around me. Stop being so dramatic, Ashley. Her mum would scold, amused at the drama queen that is her daughter. Okay, she would roll her eyes and off she went. This conversation was had many a times, so much so that Ashley's mum could actually hear the eyes rolling in her head. Oh, whatever. But her mummy was proud of her nonetheless, whatever she chose. One day, it was a day that seemed to be colder than most in Alaska. Outside the hospital at lunchtime, Ashley remembers this because she was eating her favourite sandwich. Yeah, you know the ham with the nice crumb on it. Yeah, she was eating that she was hungry. So she remembers the day well. As she tucked into her sandwich, there was this harsh screech from outside. Ashley instinctively knew that something was terribly wrong. All of a sudden there were screams, piercing screams, coming from what seemed like many different directions. What's happening? Ashley asked the manager. What's happening? Stay here. Stay here. People seem to be running in all sorts of directions. Then time seemed to stop. 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 Ashley took a deep breath. Time seemed to stop. Everything within Ashley was screaming, but no sound came out. She saw people running with wounds and sores. They needed help, and the doctors, they were busy. Ashley jumped out of her seat. She dropped It's okay, Ashley said. I'll bring you over to them. Is that your mummy and daddy? Come on, come on. And she took her by the hand. She said, come with me, come with me. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So together they just walked a couple of meters and mummy and daddy was there. YK and D was there too. And they said, wow, what happened to you? YK asked the little girl, did you hurt yourself too? Let me have a look at that. Oh no, no, I'm okay, the little girl said. Ashley, help me, Dr. Ashley. Dr. Ashley, YK said, wondering if this is a doctor that she hadn't met before. D quizzed her a little bit more and said, aren't you the new receptionist, Ashley? Ashley said, yes, I am. It's my first week on the job. First week, huh? Wow, what a start for you, Dee said, laughing with a little smirk. Oh, Dee, YK said, behave yourself, will you? And the parents couldn't help but just smiling, you know. See, nobody was tragically hurt badly. It was all just minor injuries, thankfully, this time. But people need to be safe on the roads, YK said. We see too many accidents in here. We do see too much trauma and death. People need to be aware of their actions. I agree. They all agreed, in fact. And the little girl looked at them and said, I think Ashley should be a doctor. Dee looked at the work of her hands, on the little girl's hand, the bandage, professionally done, and said, I think you're onto something, little one. Have you ever thought about going into the field yourself, Ashley? Dee would ask. Yes, I've more than thought about it. In fact, I stopped